session. Okay, let me start again now that recording is in progress. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our April Knowledge Sharing session. If you're joining us for the first time, let me just quickly explain to you that ODR Africa chooses to join, or let's say chooses to be part of the global effort pushing for easier and more efficient access to justice that transcends jurisdictional borders in the interest of global peace and, of course, global prosperity. We focus on promoting the deployment of information and communication technology to prevent and cure disputes among parties in relationships. In doing that, we have all been lucky, or we have been lucky to come across Bob, because we have been hearing about artificial intelligence and have been intimidated by, some of us have been intimidated by it. But thankfully, we have met Bob, who has broken it into pieces for us and made us comfortable that it's something we should get close to and use for more efficient performance in virtually everything we do. Yes, we know that artificial intelligence, as they say, to put it in the layman's language, is the ability of machines to execute actions, to arrive at outcomes, foresee or predict problems, learn to acclimatize to novel situations, and solve difficult, complex problems without intervention or administration of human beings. Now, fortunately, people like Bob have been working on this for so long and have been able to extract what is useful to us in this dispute resolution business. And we had better just flow with him, otherwise the world will leave us behind. He has been with us before, if he had been regular with us. But as I was telling him today, we can't have enough of him. So we're going to keep calling Robert Bergman back. And today he wants to take us through, to walk us through this novel software to many of us. So let me not take too much time, because we need him to explain things to us. So Robert, thank you for joining us. And let us have it from you again. Please take us through this thing and let us learn and become comfortable with this.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Thank you.
Oops. Are we seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, very good. Let me shrink this. Okay. All right, so today the agenda is to have a brief discussion about what we considered before integrating AI into mediation software, which we have a platform for that. And then give a small demonstration of how it actually works based on a hypothetical dispute that was sent to us, and we'll go over that. And I think some of your audience might be familiar with that dispute. It seems like it's been used in the past. So, okay, let's start. So in deciding how to integrate AI, there's lots of things to consider, because there are good and bad uses of AI, especially things like generative AI, ChatGPT, Bard, DeepMind, and a variety of other ones that are on the horizon. And so what we did was look at all the research in AI ethics that have been going on from National Institute of Health, the Alan Turing Institute of Public Policy, UNESCO, World Economic Forum, variety of universities. And we also took a look at the standards for online dispute resolution that were published on odr.org, and took a look to make sure that the approaches weren't diverging too much. And from those, after a month or so of research, we decided what we considered that would be responsible integration of AI. So if you look at these, and hopefully it's big enough, but let me do this. We took a look, and here's a list on both circles, one of current published practice standards for online mediation, which is accessibility, the fact that the mediator should be competent, it should be confidential, impartial, take into account regional legal domains, secure, fair, and transparent. And then, of course, the work in artificial intelligence ethics, as I've pointed out in the past, has been going on since pretty much 1942, when Isaac Asimov published the 3 Laws of Robotics. Unfortunately, as the human nature would lend us to taking a long time to do anything, we still haven't agreed on a common set of ethics for using AI. Things keep changing, and it makes it very difficult. What you see, though, is the intersection of these two current global efforts as what we looked at as something that was practical, or should be, at least at a minimum, requirement for integration into the software, which we'll call responsible artificial intelligence for mediators. And looking at both those things, we came up basically with the following: that needs to exhibit fairness and inclusiveness. In other words, minimize the potential for stereotyping, demeaning, identifying different kinds of demographic groups, and including marginalized groups. Be reliable and safe. Transparent, meaning that you have to identify the stakeholders who will be using the system and the outputs to make sure that they're not misusing the system and how the system got to its particular type of outputs. And then, of course, as issues arise, make sure we go back and patch up any issues that become problematic. Ensure privacy and security and confidentiality, and be accountable. In other words, constantly conduct evaluations with users to judge the impact. Now, the problem is there are some things you can't guarantee, which is because of the way AI systems are trained. Confidentiality might be an issue. Certainly competence is not attainable. And then also there are some other minor issues. But because of those, we decided that human oversight and control has to always be there. So the mediator is in the loop. The outputs are never shown to clients of mediators because we don't want illegal things to show up on clients' desktops. And in addition to that, you need to kind of have a sense of, or exhibit a kind of judgment about the mediation process in general as you use the AI system to generate help. And overall, we decided to divide AI up into assistance, so we can assist the mediator, possibly augment the mediator, but never do things automatically without human oversight. So those were kind of the conditions when we started into deploying AI into mediation. So today we'll do is to kind of make this a bit more concrete, we're going to go over a hypothetical dispute using the system so you understand how the system is built and used. We were given a couple of pages of dispute, a hypothetical dispute about an Airbnb problem. And what we've done is summarize the dispute into a simple paragraph that says basically a guest, Tammy Williams, booked a room for $220 per night on an Airbnb, or what sometimes are called HomeAways, for a 3-day work trip to Abidjan. She found that the room differed from what was described in the listing. It was half of a duplex, and there was no private bathroom. The host hadn't left town as was expected, and she made a complaint at the end for Airbnb Resolution Center, so that because she felt that the listing was misrepresented. So that's basically kind of summarizing the dispute. I believe there's a 2-page detailed description. And so what we can do now, let me just log on to the system. So now what I'm doing, as let's say I'm a mediator, I'm logging onto the system. It'll do its authentication. And so we see a couple of things. Right now, we don't have any active mediations, and we have a few consultations. The main difference between the two is that a consultation is a consultant, possibly a mediator, also with one party, just giving some consultation, helping them make a decision. A mediation is 2 parties, each with multiple participants, that trying to resolve a dispute. So let's create our mediation for this particular dispute. And so the difference between generic and judicial, it means if it's judicial, it was already in a court and then recommended to a mediator to help resolve it. So there's a case and some other stuff. Generic just means we're starting to do the mediation before any actual legal action has taken place. Okay, then we want to set up the basics of the dispute. In this case, what we're going to do is, and the difference between public and private is that you can set it to private when you're creating it, which we'll do, so that all the participants won't see anything until we set it public. And then we're going to give it a name, which we'll call whatever, African Airbnb dispute. And then the description of dispute, we have the summary, which I will just copy real quick, so we don't have to type it all in. And we'll create basically, here's the whole description of dispute. We give it a category because all of the models and questionnaires and things like that are cataloged basically by a category. And in this case, it'll be, in a sense, a contract dispute. We don't have a questionnaire yet. There are mediation terms. You can pick one. We have one, generic mediation terms, and you can see. You can create, by the way, your own terms and conditions. And what that does is it allows anyone who's a client or a participant logging in to agree to whatever terms and conditions you decide you want them to sign first. These we just have in the library a generic set of terms and conditions, and you can describe the mediation process and confidentiality, neutrality, what it is. But again, you can create your own. And then you can have some status that you keep track of where the particular dispute is. Right now, it's not started. And then what the start date is, a start time if you like. It's not necessary. And also a deadline date and time that you want it to conclude. In addition, if you have your own video conferencing system like Zoom or Teams or something like that, you can then fill in the information that you want the participant to see. Or if it's a physical location, then you can put in the physical location. So once we've done basic stuff about setting up the mediation, we'll go to the next step. And the next step will be adding a model. The models are basically to help understand the real objectives of each of the parties. In addition to that, there are risk models which allow you to calculate the probabilities of winning in a particular trial or not. And the whole idea of this system is to get people to make critical decisions instead of emotional decisions. So the models help to understand people's real priorities, and the risk model helps them understand if they don't settle, what the risks are going to the legal system or jurisdictions. And that way you can make a real decision between, okay, what do I really want? And what's the risk if I go to court? So that's kind of the logic of the system to get people to make more rational decisions. In this case, we're going to add the two parties. And so in this case, it's an individual. And party A is going to be Tammy. We'll add her. And she's part of the dispute. She's the guest. Then we'll go next. And we'll add the second party, which will be Alan, who basically is the host. And that's it. So then we create this. And so now we see the generic overview of the mediation. And we see that we have two parties, A and B. One is Tammy Williams, one is Alan Sulu. Right now, they haven't registered on the system because they don't even know about it yet. And they obviously haven't accepted whatever terms you put in it yet. So that's where we are. The next step, basically, is to create a questionnaire because we want to understand the nature of the dispute. And we want both parties to answer the questions that we come up with so we can better understand how to build the objectives and understand their priorities. So what we'll do is we go to the administration section, we go to questionnaires under mediation. And again, this is a contract dispute. And we're going to add a question there, sorry, and the category, contract dispute, and we'll call it Airbnb. Africa dispute question. Okay, just give it any name makes sense. Now we can add questions one at a time if we can think of what we want to ask. But why don't we use our assistant, which is the AI assistant? So we know we want questions for a mediation. You can also decide whether it's for an arbitration, a negotiation, or a compromise. In this case, we'll just say a mediation. That's the ADR type. And we have to give it context. So we're going to, since we already have it, we're going to paste in the description of the dispute that we have so far. And you can see it's about Tammy Williams, who booked the room for $220 for a 3-day work trip. So suggest questions for this dispute. And we'll just say, instead of saying Tammy, we'll just say maybe a guest. Then she is the guest. Okay. So now we'll go to the AI system since we've set up the ADR type and the context, and this is what we want questions for. So this takes maybe about 30 seconds, and we'll let the AI system understand the context of the dispute and come up with some questions that we might want to ask our participants. Okay. So let's see, what specific differences were there between the listing description and the actual room? That's a good question. Did you communicate your concerns with Alan during your stay? Okay. Were there any safety or cleanliness issues? And you can see there are pretty good questions. What resolution? Did you take any photos? I think this one will leave off. Did you attempt to bring other accommodations? Were there any other issues on the property that were mentioned? That's a good question. And so I think that's how did it impact your experience? Those are all good questions. So we add them and we can generate other ideas and questions. We don't want too many because it's just a demonstration. We don't want to run out of time. Yeah. But we could have said, generate some questions for negotiation, and maybe the system would come up with some other questions. Just we'll show a simple example. It takes a little bit of time. And by the way, we are using Microsoft OpenAI version, and it'll come up with some other questions. Some are different or not, but for now, we'll just close that out. And we're going to save our, if we want, we can edit any of the questions. Other President and his friends, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we'll save this. All right, so now we have a questionnaire, and we will go back to our dashboard. We'll go in, we'll open this up, and we'll edit our mediation. And now we're going to add the questionnaire, and you can click the little I just to make sure you got the right. Right questions, looks right. And then we'll save it. So now we have the first part of our pre-mediation information that we may want people to basically sign up for. So we'll turn this to public and save it. So now this will send out an email to the participants and ask them to fill out the questions. Okay, so I will play the part of, I'm going to try to split the screen. It's not so easy with doing it with Zoom, but I will, for now, log out of my role as a mediator because split screen is going to be too small. And I will log in as Tammy someplace. Okay, she was party A. So now I'm okay. So here's the dispute. So I go, okay, I see it. And you can see the first thing it's going to make me do is agree to whatever your terms are. And now I can see the description of the dispute. Yeah, this looks like it's me. And then I'm going to start answering some questions. So what And by the way, I have my son playing the role of the host, so he probably got an email that told him to log on to the system and play the role of Alan. So what specific difference is there between the listing description? Okay, well, okay, the listing description said the room faced the ocean and the bathroom was private. Okay. Well, any cleanliness issues? Not really. But it was cleaned in a hurry. So again, I'm just making believe I'm Tammy. How did the presence of Alan impact your stay? That made me feel uncomfortable. Did you take any photos? No. What resolution did you seek from MBB? I asked for a refund. Did you attempt to find alternate accommodations? No. Was there any other issues on the property? Wasn't really private. How did this experience impact your work trip? It impacted it because I couldn't concentrate maybe on the business at hand. Okay, so now I answered the questions. Save them. I'm going to go back to here, and now I'm going to log back on as the mediator. In this case, wherever I am. Okay, now I'm the mediator. Okay, I see I've received a couple of things here. So questionnaire was updated. So we know that. So we have two things that were updated on the 27th. And if you click to it, you'll go right to the dispute. So if we go here, let's see. Okay, we see that Alan only answered so far 2 of the 8 questions. It looks like we have a message from Alan basically saying, okay, he's going to start answering the questions now. He's answered 2 of them so far. So you can use this. Of course, if this is in the way, you can move it around too. So, but this allows you, just as he's answering the questions, you can see he's answered 2 of 8. I've answered 8 of 8. He's going to answer the rest of the questions in a minute. But when we pick up the little built-in messaging system, you can use the messaging system not only for text, but you can use it for making a phone call, making a video call, and you can also attach images and other things on the system. And so you can send information back and forth if you want. You can also set up groups if you want to do a group video call. So it does have built-in video conferencing as well. So we'll wait for questionnaire on the dispute to be filled out and see what happens. In the meantime, you can see that the progress. Now, what I'd like to point out that makes this asynchronous is the fact that even if you're not online, the system, if it receives an update, like a questionnaire has been filled out or completed, you'll get an email so that you'll know that some event has happened in the system, and you can, in fact, you can go back on the system and then see what's been updated. In this case, you'll see, for instance, a questionnaire was completed. I got an email for that. And then when the second questionnaire is completed, we'll go ahead and do that. So let me just get back on the system. Okay, he's only done 2 out of 8. So let's take a look so far at the question results. We see that party A, Tammy's created some questions, some answers, and we can look at what she's done. We can look at party B, who's answered 2 questions, and we can see what Alan's done so far, which is okay. So that's what he said so far. So if we look at the combined answers so far, it'll group each of the participants' answers under each of the questions so we can see what's going on. Okay. Now, the nice thing about this is that we can also ask the AI system, okay, to take a look at the answers and start making, even though he hasn't filled out all of his questionnaires yet, we can take a look at the AI system and we can see what the summary of the answers might be. So let's go. Let me just get rid of this for a second. Looks like we got questionnaire completed event. So let's go back and look at party B, and we'll refresh the screen because something got completed. Okay, looks like party B completed. So we'll look at the combined answers. And now we see that both parties have answered all the questions, and we're going to answer the AI system. We're going to ask the AI system to summarize the results. So the nice thing about, not only is the AI system helping you generate questions, okay, it's also going to help summarize the results. So click on summarization and see what the response to our questionnaires really says to us. So right now, the AI system's looking at all the answers to the questions. Takes a few minutes to go through all the answers, understand the nature of the questionnaire. And there we go. Okay. So what do we have so far? We see that summary of the questionnaires, differences between the listing and the actual room. You can see it listed each of the answers that each of the parties gave. Then it has some key points. Both participants experienced discrepancies between the listening description and actual room. Neither participant reported major safety issues. The presence of Alan and his friends negatively impacted both participants. Both participants are seeking a refund from Airbnb, which of course doesn't make sense because it's only one seeking a refund. And then the impact on Tammy Williams' work trip was negative, while Alan's response was not specified. And both, again, we only really want one party, okay, to look for a refund. So in general, because both parties had to answer these questions, where some of those questions, if we would have eliminated them, wouldn't make much sense, because we didn't want Alan to answer the question of whether or not he wants a refund. But basically, when you set up the questionnaire, you can select which of the AI questions that were generated you want them to answer. And once both parties answer, you can use the AI system to basically create what the key points are and what the insights might be. And so, all right, so now we have that done. And so we want to look at what people's priorities are. So for that, we go back to our dispute, and we're going to add some models for understanding the objectives. So for party A, this is the guest, Tammy. We're going to add this particular model, which I built ahead of time so we could save some time. But if you look at the model, the goal is to find the highest priority of the guest. And then these were the objectives that we thought might be reasonable for the guest. And later on, I'll show you exactly how you can use the AI system to create these models as well. So now we have the model for party A, and we'll save that. And then for party B, we'll add the host model. And you can see the objectives are possibly offer a partial refund, request a positive review, maybe address the bathroom issue, and improve communications. And then we'll save that. So now both parties will have essentially, as we go back to the dashboard, each of the parties now will have one of these models to do. So I'll play the role of the guest, and rather than log out, you can do it. I'll do it from here. What I'd like to point out is that if the participant doesn't feel like they want to sign on and register, you as a mediator can then talk to them on a telephone or other communication device and get their answers over the phone and put them in yourself. So they can either do it themselves, or you can play the role of doing it for them while you're speaking with them on the phone. So in this case, it took that simple model for the guest and said, okay, which is more important, obtain a partial refund or receive an apology? Well, I want my money back, and I'm going to say that's 3 times as important as receiving an apology. Now, the whole point of this analytical part of the system is to move people from their emotional brain to their logical brain. That is, you can't be both quantitative and emotional at the same time, because it requires a different part of your brain. So here we're saying, okay, getting a partial refund is more important by 3 times. Obtain a partial refund versus ensure accurate listing. I don't care about accurate listings. I'll say that's 3 times more important. Obtain a partial refund or improve communication. I'm still focused on getting my money back. Receive an apology or ensure, I'll say that's an apology is more important than the accurate listing, because I might not use that particular home away again. Receive an apology or improve communication. I'll say receive apologies, twice as important. Ensure a listing or improve communication. Well, for people in the future, making sure the listing makes sense is probably more important. So I'll complete this. And what the system does, if you can see, takes all that quantitative input and calculates the actual priorities, which in this case is obtaining a partial refund, then maybe an apology, then worrying about an accurate listing, and then improving communications. And that's my perspective. This tells me how consistent I was logically in my answers, meaning that, if I say A is twice as important as B and B is twice as important as C, well, then A should be 4 times as important as C. So now it looks like if I go to my little event thing, it says, okay, it was completed. Both of these have been completed. So let's go close that. And I can see that we have basically answers for both party A and party B. So we'll go to assessment results. And we can see the priority of both parties. So Alan wants a positive review, and he second might offer a partial refund. Improved communications is third, and address the bathroom issues is last. Okay. We see that on the guest priorities, that getting a refund is the most important, receiving apology is second, improving the listing or improving communications are third and fourth. Okay. So given these particular results, why don't we'll go to our AI system and say, okay, given the context, which was the description, and using the analytics that were provided by the assessments for mediation, and we said party A is the guest, party B is the host, suggests some possible things. So now we use the AI system to take the analytics and also the context of the dispute and see what, and again, this is the mediator. Remember, both parties do not see this. It's only the mediator who sees this. And we say, oh, idea one, Alan offers a 50% refund. Second idea is Alan provides an apology to Tammy. Third, agrees to update the listing. Fourth idea is commits to improving communications with future guests. And so you can see, based on the priorities of both and also the analytics, the AI system then takes that and says, oh, well, here's some ideas for settling the dispute. So let's just say that since getting a refund is the most important and the second most important for Alan, let's just say this is a particular, we can add this thing as an option, okay? And so we would just basically, we'll just call this an option. This is, we'll call it Airbnb, Airbnb dispute. And this is refund as an option. And then, and this is both, actually, we'll just say party A, sorry. Yeah, we'll put this into party A. And so this basically creates a new group, and we'll say it's an approved option. So we have one alternative, and maybe a second alternative might be the this we'll call the apology alternative. And we'll approve that just for argument's sake. So now we have potentially two alternatives. If we go to our alternative section, normally what we would do is then we would have both parties kind of weigh these against their criteria to give them a particular priority. And we have to assign, in this case, let's say the guest weights for their objectives, and they would evaluate these things. Okay. Now, the other thing that in the cases where there's a very complex dispute, for instance, a construction dispute that has dozens of contractors, you might have lots of alternatives that have to be weighed against those particular objectives. In a simpler dispute like this, what we would do is go to negotiation, and we would create a negotiation agenda. And we'll call this Airbnb agenda. We'll just use that name. And Tammy Williams is representing party A, and Alan representing party B. And we create, now what we're going to do is create a negotiation agenda from those particular outputs. And so here we're going to add a type. Let me hold on a second. Okay. So we can then, once we have the agenda, we'll make this active agenda, let's say. And then we're going to maybe add some items. Maybe it's a value. Okay. Well, sorry, let's use the AI system. That might help. So we'll say, okay, one of the biggest criteria was obtaining a partial refund. So let's add that to the agenda. It's a value, let's say, with a term. And we'll say party A is going to get the discount and party B is going to give the discount, because party B is, in fact, the host, and it's currency. And we'll set this thing active. And here's where you get to choose whether you want the mediator in the middle or not. And if the mediator is in the middle, that means every proposal and counter proposal will be seen by the mediator first to make sure that it makes sense. Okay. And so here we're going to say we want the mediator involved in this particular item. So we have an item. And then we can start to, it's active, and we can start to make proposal, and the mediator will see basically all the proposals that are made, okay? And each party at this point can then put in, if they want, they can share their targets and their reservation values or their walkaway values. We're getting close to time. I don't want to spend too much time, but you can basically see different proposals. We see party B said his target is 150 and his walkaway is 300. Okay. So now, for instance, if I log out of here for a second, and I go in as party A, which is Tammy, wherever Tammy went. Yep, here. Okay. So I log back in as Tammy. Okay. I see there's a notification, which is a negotiation item was basically created for me. So why don't I just click on it? And it takes me right to that point. And I can then, if I want, I can edit my particular items. I can make proposals. And then, of course, I could edit my targets. So let's say my target is 400. Let's say my target would be to get $400 back for a refund, and I'll walk away if I don't get at least 200. Okay. So now that's what I said. And then I'm going to create a proposal. Okay, so now I'll go back, log out. Let's see, I haven't seen any active proposals yet. So we'll go back and sign out and then sign back in as the mediator. I know this can get a little confusing doing all the parts myself, but once I log back in as the mediator, okay. I see that I've received a notification that a
Yes.
proposal was created. I see party B will give $150. Okay. And that's pending review and a positive review. That's what party B is proposing. So I'll share that with Tammy because I think it's rational. And then party B, Tammy will see that proposal. Okay. So, by the way, we're getting close to the time available. So maybe
Yes.
I should stop.
Yes, so that people can ask questions.
Sure.
Yes. Robert, maybe I can start. If you have used, when you use this, don't let me say if you have used, I'm sure you have used it a number of times in real life. Do you start with this, the questionnaire, before you send it out to the parties, before meeting with them? Because it looks, I'm wondering how it will work, how it works when the parties are before you and you are actually trying to apply this.
Okay.
Won't there be a lot of quiet time on their part while they're not doing too much and awkward?
Yes. So think about the problem like this. You are contracted, let's say, to be a mediator in dispute. Before you can do anything, you will have a conversation. Remember, this is online,
Yes.
or it could be face to face. You will have a conversation with each party to get a rough idea of what the dispute is about. The next step, more than likely, is you'll go to the AI system and create a questionnaire. Once you have a questionnaire, you'll create a mediation on the system, attach a questionnaire, and then allow each of the parties to, in their whatever time's available for them, to go off, register on the system, and answer the questions. Once that's complete, you'll take a look and get a better idea of what the dispute is about and what the more details of the dispute are about. Once you've gotten that far, you can then create some of these models, if they're not already in the library, to help understand the priorities of each of the parties. Once you've attached these models, each of the participants in their own time goes back and goes through that assessment so that you understand, when that's complete, what the priorities are. And once you see the difference between the priorities, which will always be the case, you can start to have a conversation, whether you use the built-in video conferencing or not, with each of the parties about what their top priorities are. Does it make sense? Is this something they feel they want to negotiate? And once you've gotten that far, you can set up the negotiation. And once the negotiation is complete, then you have potentially a settlement. So that's kind of the way I would look at the process. Does that make sense to you?
Makes a lot of sense. That's actually what I thought. I just wanted to be sure that it's what you're thinking. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, let me stop sharing for a second. Sure.
Yes.
Is there any other questions that?
Are we still trying to really? Okay. Daniel Ndogo, I believe, wants to say something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Robert, for that presentation. When I look at this, I'm also looking at it like it is going to be applied, especially with online mediation, where there is no face-to-face, where somebody may be in a different country. And for example, if you take that case of Airbnb, usually the owner of the property and the guest, they never meet actually. They meet online. The business is done online. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this is really the future where we can use online mediation to mediate anywhere in the world because it's very appropriate for what is happening and what is coming up in the world. Because I think the face-to-face mediation, much as we would like to have it, it's not really the future. So I think this is a very good system.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think it's what it was designed to do is give people who are doing online mediation better tools to understand where people's priorities are, because you can't really read the level of emotion online with people. That's almost impossible. A lot of the time, video conferencing is a waste of time because the most important thing in solving a problem is audio synchrony, keeping the logic in your head. And every time someone is interrupted online, they lose the logic and they have to start over again. And so a good part of just pure video conferencing is wasted time, or people are kind of adjusting how they look on the conference or something like that. So, and it's also the third part is to make it asynchronous so that you're notified every time people complete different events, so that you don't have to sit in front of a computer all day trying to negotiate these things. These can happen offline at your participants' time, when it's convenient, where they feel safe answering the questions. And then you get back online and you can see the results and get a better idea of how to resolve it. So in general, better tools, make it asynchronous so you don't have to spend so much time online, and get better results because people are making logical decisions and not emotional decisions. So that's the whole idea of this.
Okay. Unfortunately, we have just 2 minutes left. Anybody else want to add something quickly? Because we don't want to eat into anybody's time. As I said, I've always told Bob that we can't have enough of him. So I don't think this is the last time we're gonna. And if there is need, please, you can link us by email. A number of people have, because they want to join us in some demonstrative activity as regards this software. We will get in touch with you because we have seen a number of people who have expressed desire to find out a little more about this, and we'll be working together on it to go through and really understand the software. And I think Bob has said it all, because it's going to help. It's the most friendly, what can I say? It's the most resolver friendly software I've ever come across. I think Mireille wants to say something.
No,
Sure.
I second what you said, Juan. I think.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Most resolver friendly software yes, that I've ever come across. And I agree with you, because Bob has gone to the most important thing for the resolver and has provided a solution for. But I haven't said that. The resolver knows that emotions of the parties and body language of the parties can never be ignored, because sometimes they say something, they mean something else. Sometimes they're being coached. There are also third parties, So However, this focuses the resolver on what is most important, and that's
Right.
so important to us.
Yeah, so making longer term logical decisions is very difficult because most people are strangers in their own future. They can't imagine themselves 5 years from now. And because of that, they could make a short term decision, which they regret a year later. Right. And so it's important to focus on making logical decisions and not emotional ones.
Yes. So we usually have a duty to, first of all, find a way of getting them off that emotional track to be logical. And then, well, we have this to guide us anyway. So thank you so much, Bob. It's a wonderful, wonderful, powerful software, but we're certainly going to be in touch. Yes, I think it's a good time I'm always happy when we finish on time, so somebody can move on to their next meeting or their next schedule. Bob, bless you.
Okay.
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work that you've done there. Yes. Okay, thank you for joining us. We'll be calling Bob again, calling on him again as the situation demands. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Mires. Thanks, Mrs. Cole. Thanks, Michael. Alimat. Thanks. See ya.